The night was cold, the wind howling through the narrow alleyways as I clutched my worn-out coat tighter around myself. The city was bustling, full of life, yet I felt like a ghost drifting through it. 9 years had passed since the day my family had thrown me out, their harsh words still echoing in my mind like a never-ending nightmare. I was 19 when it happened. The argument had started over something trivial. At least that's what I had thought. But to my father it had been the final straw. He had always seen me as the black sheep of the family, the disappointment, the rebel who could never live up to my older brother Daniel. That night, after a heated exchange, he had pointed to the door and told me to leave. I had expected my mother to intervene, to stand up for me, but she had simply turned away, her silence cutting deeper than any words ever could. I had nowhere to go. No money, no job, nothing but the clothes on my back. The first few months had been the hardest. I had slept on park benches, begged for food, and struggled just to survive. The pain of betrayal was worse than the hunger. How could they turn their backs on me so easily? Had I really meant so little to them? But life had a way of forcing you to grow. I had found a small job at a local diner, washing dishes for scraps of food. Slowly, I climbed my way up, saving every penny I could. Determination burned inside me. If my own family didn't believe in me, I would prove to them, and to myself, that I was worth something. 9 years later, I was no longer the scared, helpless boy they had abandoned. I had built a life for myself. I had a career, a home, and most importantly, I had found people who truly cared about me. But no matter how much I tried to bury the past, a part of me still ached for the family that had forsaken me. That was why I was standing here now, on the street where I had spent my childhood, staring up at the house I had once called home. The lights were on inside, laughter spilling through the windows. They were still the same. My mother, my father, my brother. They had moved on without me, as if I had never existed. A lump formed in my throat, my heart pounding against my ribs. I had told myself I didn't need them anymore, but the truth was I had always wanted to know. Did they ever regret it? Did they miss me? Or was I just a distant memory, a mistake they had erased from their lives? I took a deep breath and stepped forward, my hand trembling as I reached for the doorbell. The moment I pressed it, everything inside me screamed to turn back, to run. But it was too late. Footsteps approached from the other side, and before I could change my mind, the door swung open. The shocked gasp that escaped my mother's lips told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't expected to see me again. But the real question was, what would they do now that I had returned? The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. My mother's eyes, wide with disbelief, darted across my face as if searching for a trace of the boy she had once known. But I wasn't that boy anymore. You, she whispered, barely above a breath. Her grip tightened on the edge of the door as though steadying herself. You came back. I swallowed hard. I did. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, I thought I saw tears gathering in her eyes. But before either of us could speak another word, a familiar voice cut through the tension. Who is it, Mom? The voice belonged to Daniel, my older brother, the golden child. I saw the exact moment recognition flickered in his eyes. His casual stroll toward the door turned into a sudden halt, his brows furrowing. Then, like a switch flipping, his expression hardened. You have some nerve showing up here, he said, stepping forward. After all these years. What do you want? I clenched my fists, inhaling sharply. I didn't come here to ask for anything. I just needed to see if you all were still here. And now you have, Daniel snapped. You can go. Daniel, my mother gasped, her voice breaking slightly. What? He scoffed. He left. He didn't care about us then, so why now? I let out a bitter laugh. Left. That's a nice way of rewriting history. I was thrown out. By him. By Dad. And you stood there, watching. His jaw clenched, and for the first time I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt, maybe? But it was gone just as quickly. It doesn't matter anymore, I said, shaking my head. I just wanted to see if you ever regretted it. Mom took a hesitant step forward, her hand reaching out slightly before stopping herself. Of course I regretted it, she murmured. Every day. My heart clenched. Then why didn't you look for me? Why didn't you try? Tears slipped down her cheeks. Because your father wouldn't allow it. Because I was too much of a coward. My breath hitched, but before I could say anything, another voice, one I hadn't heard in almost a decade, boomed from inside. Who is at the door? My entire body stiffened as my father's voice reached my ears. Heavy footsteps followed, and within moments, the man who had cast me out appeared in the doorway. His hair was grayer, his face lined with age, but his gaze was as sharp and piercing as ever. His eyes landed on me, and for a brief second he faltered. You, me, I said, my voice even. A long pause stretched between us. Then his lips pressed into a thin line. I assume you want something. Money. A favor. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. No, I made it on my own. I don't need anything from you. I just wanted to see if you ever missed me. He scoffed. People who abandon their families don't get to ask that question. Anger burned in my veins. You threw me out. You made me homeless. I had nothing. I was just a kid. And yet you survived, didn't you? He shot back coldly. My breath hitched. There it was. The same cruelty. The same indifference. I looked at my mother. Her tear-streaked face. The pain in her eyes. Then at Daniel, who had always been the favored son, standing beside my father like a perfect soldier. I had wanted closure. Maybe even a sliver of reconciliation. But standing here now, I realized the truth. I had already built a life without them. Maybe I didn't need them anymore. Still, there was one last thing I had to say. I didn't come here to beg for love, I said, my voice steady. I came to remind you that I existed. That no matter how much you tried to erase me from your lives, you can't change the fact that I was your son. That you threw away something you'll never get back. A flicker of something, regret perhaps, passed through my father's eyes. But he quickly masked it, standing tall with his usual cold expression. You made your choice, he said simply. Now live with it. My chest ached, but I refused to let the tears fall. I turned away, stepping off the porch. My mother let out a soft sob, but she didn't stop me. Daniel said nothing. I walked away without looking back. But as I disappeared down the street, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. Something told me the past wasn't done with me just yet. The cold air bit at my skin as I walked away from the house I once called home. My mind was spinning, my emotions a tangled mess of anger, pain, and something I couldn't quite place. Disappointment. I told myself I didn't need them, that I had moved on, but facing them again had opened wounds I thought had healed. I hadn't expected warmth, but my mother's tears had shaken me. And my father. His coldness still cut like a knife. As I turned the corner, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I tensed, expecting my father or Daniel, but when I looked back, it was my mother. Wait. Please. She called, her breath heavy from running. I stopped, watching as she came closer, her hands trembling. I need to talk to you, she gasped. I crossed my arms, my heart pounding. Talk about what, Mom? How you let him throw me out. How you never tried to find me. Her face twisted with pain. I wanted to, I did. But your father, he wouldn't allow it. He said you were gone for good. He made it clear that if I looked for you, I would lose everything. I let out a bitter laugh. And you chose him. I chose survival, she whispered. I was weak, and I regret it every single day. But you have to understand, there are things you don't know. Things I couldn't tell you back then. A lump formed in my throat. Like what? She hesitated, glancing back at the house. Not here. Can we go somewhere else? Please. I stared at her, trying to decide if I even wanted to hear whatever she had to say. But the desperation in her eyes made my decision for me. Fine, I muttered. There's a cafe nearby. We walked in silence, the weight of the past hanging between us. When we arrived at the small cafe, she fidgeted with the menu, as if gathering her thoughts. Finally she looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. Your father, he never wanted you to succeed, she said. It wasn't just about the argument that night. He had been looking for a reason to push you out. I frowned. Why? What did I do? She swallowed hard. You didn't fit into his plans. He always wanted Daniel to take over his business, to be the perfect son. But you were different. You were independent, stubborn, and you questioned him. He saw you as a threat. Cold chill ran down my spine. A threat? To what? She hesitated, lowering her voice. To the truth. I leaned in, my heart pounding. Mom, what truth? She glanced around, then whispered. Your father has secrets. Ones he never wanted you to uncover. He thought keeping you away was the safest way to protect them. My stomach twisted. What kind of secrets? She took a shaky breath. His business. It's not just what it seems. There are things, illegal things, happening behind closed doors. I never knew the full extent, but I heard enough to know it's dangerous. And you, being the son who never followed blindly. He was afraid you'd dig too deep. I stared at her, stunned. All my life I had thought I was the problem, that I had been thrown out because I didn't belong. But now I was learning it had never been about me. It had been about my father's secrets. Anger simmered in my chest. And Daniel. Does he know? She hesitated. I don't know. But he's always been loyal to your father. If he knows, he won't tell you. I exhaled sharply, my mind racing. I had come back for closure, but now I had something else. A reason to dig deeper. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, narrowing my eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Because I've been living with guilt for too long. And because I still love you. I never stopped. I just didn't know how to fight for you. But now I want to make things right. If there's any part of you that can forgive me, I need to know. I looked at her, the woman who had once turned away when I needed her most. There was pain in her eyes, but also sincerity. I wanted to hold on to my anger, to tell her it was too late. But part of me still longed for a mother's love. I swallowed hard. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, but I'm willing to listen. She let out a soft sob, nodding. That's all I can ask for. But even as I said the words, my mind was already turning. My father had secrets. And if he had gone to such lengths to get rid of me, then maybe, just maybe, it was time for me to uncover the truth. The weight of my mother's words lingered as I left the cafe that night. My father had secrets. Dark, hidden things he had cast me aside to protect. The realization churned in my stomach, twisting everything I had ever believed about my family. I had thought I was abandoned because I didn't belong, because I was a failure in their eyes. But now I knew. I had been a threat to my father's empire, an empire built on deception and lies. I walked through the dimly lit streets, my mind racing. My father had always been strict, controlling, a man who demanded obedience without question. But had I really been so blind to what he was capable of? Had I missed the signs? And more importantly, what exactly was he hiding? As I approached my hotel, a familiar voice called out from behind me. You shouldn't have come back. I turned sharply, my heart hammering in my chest. Daniel. My older brother stood under the flickering streetlight. His arms crossed, his face unreadable. I hadn't seen him in nearly a decade, but he looked the same. Just older, sharper, colder. And why is that? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. He sighed, stepping forward. Because you don't belong here anymore. You walked away, and that should have been the end of it. Scoffed. Walked away. I was thrown out, Daniel. Or have you conveniently forgotten that? His jaw tightened. I remember. But things are different now. Dad has built something bigger, something you can't be a part of. If you stay, you'll only bring trouble. I narrowed my eyes. So, you do know about his secrets. Daniel's expression darkened. Whatever you think you know, forget it. It's not your concern. You have your life, go live it. Don't stir up the past. The past isn't done with me yet, I shot back. And if Dad's so worried, maybe that means there's something worth uncovering. Daniel's eyes flickered with something, fear? Anger? A warning. Don't do this, he said quietly. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Then tell me, I challenged. Tell me what I'm missing. He hesitated, his fingers twitching like he was debating whether to reach for me or push me away. Just leave. While you still can. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the cold night air, my chest tight with frustration. I wasn't leaving. Not yet. Not without the truth. The next morning, I stood outside my father's office building, a towering structure that loomed over the city like a king surveying his kingdom. I knew I couldn't just walk in. I needed leverage. Information. And the only person who might have it was my mother. I called her, my fingers tightening around the phone as it rang. Hello. Her voice was soft, hesitant. "I need answers, Mom," I said. "Meet me again. Somewhere safe." There was a long pause. Then finally, "I know a place." We met at an old bookstore on the outskirts of town. My mother looked more fragile than she had the night before, as if years of keeping secrets had drained the life from her. "Tell me everything," I said, sitting across from her. "No more half-truths. No more excuses." She inhaled shakily. "Your father, he's not just a businessman. He's connected to people who operate in shadows. Money laundering, fraud, bribery. Things I tried to ignore for years because I was afraid. He has powerful allies, people who make problems disappear." Chill ran through me. "And Daniel? Is he involved?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know for sure, but he's always been loyal to your father. I think he knows more than he lets on." I exhaled slowly, the pieces beginning to fit together. If my father was so desperate to get rid of me, it means I was close to something dangerous. She nodded. "That's why I'm scared for you. If he finds out you're digging, he won't hesitate, sweetheart. He won't let you threaten everything he's built." A deep silence settled between us. For the first time, I saw my mother not as the woman who had let me go, but as someone trapped, just as I had been. But I wasn't a scared kid anymore. "I'm not backing down," I said firmly. "I need to know the truth." My mother reached across the table, gripping my hand. "Then be careful. Because once you open this door, there's no turning back." I met her eyes and nodded. I had already made my choice. It was time to confront the shadows of the past. The city lights stretched before me as I stood on the rooftop of my hotel, the cold wind biting against my skin. My mother's words echoed in my head, whispers of my father's crimes, of a web of deceit that ran deeper than I had ever imagined. My return had been about closure, about facing the family that had abandoned me. But now it had become something more. This was about justice, about truth, and about breaking free from the past once and for all. I took a deep breath and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. After 3 rings, a voice I barely recognized answered. "Hello. It's me," I said. "I need your help." A long silence stretched on the other end of the line before the voice responded. "Where are you?" "Back home. And I'm about to do something dangerous." The next morning, I met James in a small diner on the edge of town. He had been my best friend once, the one person who had stood by me before I was cast out. Seeing him now, older with lines of worry on his face, reminded me of just how much time had passed. "You look like hell," James said, stirring his coffee. Smirk. "Good to see you too." His expression turned serious. "What's going on? You said it was dangerous." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "My father isn't just a businessman. He's been covering up crimes for years. My mother finally admitted it. And I think my brother is in deeper than he's letting on." James exhaled sharply. "I always knew your old man was ruthless, but this..." He shook his head. "What's your plan?" "I need proof. Something I can use against him. Something that will finally hold him accountable." James frowned. "You realize he won't just let that happen, right? Men like him, when they feel threatened, they strike first." He nodded. "That's why I need your help. If anything happens to me, I need someone who knows the truth." James hesitated but then gave a firm nod. "I've got your back. Just tell me what you need." That night, I found myself outside my father's office building once more. But this time I wasn't just here to look. I was here to act. With James keeping watch from a distance, I slipped into the building using the back entrance. The halls were eerily quiet, the only sound my own steady breaths as I made my way toward his private office. My heart pounded in my chest as I carefully picked the lock. The door clicked open and I stepped inside. The office was pristine, every item in its place, except for the safe in the corner. That was what I needed. I pulled out the small notepad where my mother had scribbled down a set of numbers. Her best guess at the combination. I tried the first set, no luck. The second, still nothing. My pulse quickened as I tried the third, and suddenly, with a soft clunk, the safe door swung open. Inside were stacks of files, ledgers, and, most damning of all, a hard drive. I grabbed everything I could, stuffing it into my bag just as I heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Froze. The handle of the office door twisted. With no other option, I darted behind a cabinet, my breath shallow as the door creaked open. Through the slats, I saw Daniel step inside. His eyes swept the room, his jaw clenched tight. He knew. Somehow, he knew someone had been here. I held my breath as he moved toward the safe. The moment his back was turned, I slipped out from my hiding spot, darting for the door. But Daniel was fast. Faster than I remembered. His hand clamped onto my arm, spinning me around. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed. I met his gaze, my own full of defiance. "I'm doing what should have been done years ago." His grip tightened. "You don't understand. If you expose this, you won't just bring him down. You'll be in danger. We all will." "Then maybe it's time," I said. "Maybe it's time for the truth." Daniel's face twisted in conflict, but before he could say anything else, a noise from outside caught our attention. James. He was signaling me it was time to go. I yanked my arm free, backing toward the door. "You have a choice, Daniel. You can keep protecting him, or you can do what's right." He didn't stop me as I walked away. The next morning the news broke. An anonymous source had leaked files exposing years of financial crimes, bribery, and corruption tied to my father's empire. His name was plastered across headlines, and by noon, authorities were already investigating. I stood outside my mother's house, watching as she read the news, tears streaming down her face. When she looked up at me, there was something new in her eyes. Not just sorrow but relief. "You did it," she whispered. He nodded. "It's over." I turned to leave, but before I could, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. For the first time in years, I let myself feel it, the warmth of a mother's embrace. "I'm sorry for everything," she murmured. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I know." As I walked away, I felt lighter. My father's reign of control was over. My past no longer defined me. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly free. The end.